Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to a very different Monday clash of the correspondents. It's a championship COTC. Let me first introduce you to our Burnley correspondent. It's Jack Toner. How are you, Jack?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good man. And our Luton Town correspondent, Dan Ashby's in. How are you, Dan?
Probably not as well as Jack, but overall, yeah, not too bad.
We'll get on to you and what's been happening with Luton. I thought this would be really interesting to do because you're at very different ends of the spectrum in terms of your championship position at the moment. Jack, you're third. Dan, you're third from bottom, I think. Last time I checked, I think that's right. You'd have been bottom if you didn't beat Portsmouth on Saturday, right?
Yeah, so yeah, only one way, hopefully, hopefully.
Well, that's that. If you listen to Mick McCarthy, things can always get worse. Jack, I've got to start with this obvious one, mate. 9 goals conceded all season in the league. What the is that? That's
Yeah,
impossible, mate.
yeah, it's bizarre, and I think with the team selection yesterday, and us conceding three in the league against in the cup, sorry, against Preston, shows you um, how easy the sort of core of the three out of the back five are for us. With CJ, Egan Riley, Esteve, and James Trafford, it is just remarkable. When I've watched this season, it's not that we completely limit teams to no chances. There's been teams that do have chances against us. Yeah, it's just completely remarkable. We didn't did not see it coming at all. Compared to last season as well, when we leaked goals for fun, it's a nice change.
9 goals conceded in 34 games. Um, it's barely. Would you even know when you last conceded a league goal? It's like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think it's not been this year. It was the back end of last year. I think it might have been December of last year. It's ridiculous.
Do you go to games with like supreme confidence and we score first, we'll win? Is it a bit like that?
Yeah, it kind of just is if we score, we probably do win. And I think that's been the issue for us is being do we score? 11 nil-nil draws this season. So I think whilst it is a remarkable stat, I think there's quite a few fans that would say, we'd be happy for it to go out the window a little bit if it meant we actually went for games and went for teams a little bit more because that's it with the championship. That we seen that under when we had company that you can quite. It's much easier to outscore teams in this division than it is obviously in the Premier League. So um, I think we are crying out for a little bit more firepower because if we did, we'd be absolutely unstoppable.
Well, this is it because I think when you say to people that Burnley have conceded 9 goals in 34 games, you assume if for people who are not following it, you must be top. But not only you're not top two. And I think the figure that stands out is that you've got 14 draws, which is the same number as sorry, it's two less than Leeds and Sheffield United combined, right? You've only lost 2 games, conceded 9 goals, and yet you're not in the top two. But everyone I hear is focusing on this defensive record rather than the fact that actually scoring 43 goals in 34 games is not really enough to get promoted.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And I've heard people use the analogies and looking at Parker when he's had Fulham and Bournemouth, he's had two you know amazing strikers for the championship in both of those, and I think we have really missed that out and out goal scorer. We've been playing Fleming through the middle as a striker, which I think his best position really is sitting behind a striker, which we haven't really seen him play in. Lau Foster struggled again this season and only had the one goal, which hasn't been great. But yeah, I think that's our problem. We really need to find a way of going for teams. And I think if anything, the defensive record is a little bit of something now that we all clearly want to cling on to. So I think if we were to have a game where we won 3-2, it'd probably be a blessing in disguise that it gets the monkey off our back a little bit and we can start really you know going for teams. It's felt a little bit like that all season where we've had a string of good results, and you think, oh, it's really going to change now because we're clearly solid at the back, and we can string a few more wins together. There's just been, like you said, just too many draws as what's cost us being in the top two, really.
Dan, how do you see them as a neutral observer? Is this just a ridiculous freak occurrence, this?
Obviously, they've worked hard on it, but the amount of nil-nil games I've watched on Sky of Burnley, or it's been like 1-0 or something. Yeah, they they set up well. I think Trafford last year was a hindrance, and he probably needed this year, last year in the championship because everyone knew he was uh, a, a goalie with a lot of potential. But yeah, he's won games by his own. What, two penalty saves? What about a month ago? Um, and then I think the centre back partnership has done really well. Egan Riley's come from nowhere basically, and then Esteve was pretty solid last year. So yeah, going forward though, they need a lot of work, I think, and to the point where they, my guess is they probably won't get the top two because they're not good enough going forward. I think.
You familiar with the underlying numbers, Jack?
Yeah, I've seen the tweets. I've not something that I can recite to you. I'm sure you've got some of them there, but
I have. There's some remarkable stuff here. So you've conceded 9 goals. That's from an expected goals conceded of 27.6. So in terms of an overperformance, you're essentially overperforming kind of 3 times over, basically, which is incredible. What's also interesting in the league, I think, is there are a number of teams who are running at conceding under a goal per game. Like Leeds have only conceded 22. It's good. Sheffield United 27, Sunderland 32. I think West Brom only 32. There's a number of teams running at under a goal per game conceded. Is this something that's a trait that's normal in the Championship? It doesn't feel like it is.
yeah, I wouldn't say it feels normal. The Championship of old, we were used to seeing goals amongst us. So I don't know what sort of really changed it up this year. Um, yeah, it's like I said, it is a bit of a freak one, really, which we've obviously contributed massively to from both ends, really, the lack of scoring and lack of conceding.
So Leeds have conceded 22 goals from an expected goals against of 22 and a half. Sheffield United have conceded 27 from expected goals against of 34. You also said 9 conceded from an expected goals against 27. Are you familiar with the XG stats, as in goals for?
Yeah, I think we've. No, I'll let you.
Dan, do you know that your team's got a higher XG this season than Jack's?
Yep.
So our next year, and this is taken from FB Ref from this season, Jack, you rank 20th of the
Yeah,
teams
it
in the
doesn't
league for
surprise me.
XG. Like my deep concern for you is that obviously can't continue even if you do go up, right?
Yeah, and this has been it. And Foster's faced quite a lot of criticism from some fans saying that he's not had the right output, and up until the last few games, we've not created any chances for him. And I think it feels a lot more how we set up rather than the individuals missing chances. And obviously the XG there shows you that it's not the it was just the sheer amount of chances that we aren't creating. So yeah, I think some of it needs to come from within, and we need to find a different style that works towards some of these player strengths because we just don't create enough chances.
Yeah, so it's actual the creativity more than the actual nine
Yeah,
problem, basically.
yeah.
Okay, it's interesting. Dan, how do you feel hearing those stats about Burnley and you having a better XG than them, even though you're third bottom and they're third top?
I mean, talk about the other XD number though, the number we concede, and that'll be why we're down the bottom.
Well, I was going to throw you a little bit of a light, but in terms of expected goals against, you're nowhere near the worst, Dan.
I know, but we've just been really bad in both boxes. I think Adebayo has the most big chances missed in the league. Um, and defensively, we just haven't had a settle back 4 or 5, whatever we've played since the beginning of, well, since January in the Premier League, really, when we had all those injuries. So, yeah, it's just been a bit of a disaster. And yeah, unfortunately, we're not good enough in both boxes. And in the Championship, where a lot of games are fine margin, if you're not good enough in the boxes, you could quite easily be near the bottom.
How was the team though? I mean, go back to this time last year. You was on a really good run actually, kind of about this time. You walked into a load of injuries kind of at the same time. But people like Adebayo and Morris were genuinely getting talked about at different stages, genuinely Premier League, fantasy Premier League assets. How are you not scoring enough goals with them two still with you?
Well, Adebayo's missed loads of chances, like ridiculous. Like I said, he's missed the most big chances in the league. Got like one of the highest XGs, similar to like Isidore and all that. Morris not really had too many chances, to be honest. He sort of played more as the link. Um, we also had a massive spell where Alfie Doughty was out injured, and he was like massive for creating a lot of our chances. So yeah, it's just been a lot of question marks that even the fans don't understand. Like you said, Morris and Adebayo got over 10 goals each in the Premier League. It's
Yeah, and yet your whole team this
can't
season is on
explain.
32 goals scored
Yeah,
from
can't explain.
from I think you played 35, so you're running under a goal a
Mm.
game. What happened with Rob Edwards, mate? Because I think a lot of us, myself included, were really impressed with what he did last year. It felt like he was a big part of the fact that you actually kind of ran close to staying up, basically. Did the club hold on to the fact that what he'd achieved with you? Did that mean that he stayed on longer than he should have, basically?
Yeah, so it probably goes back to the summer. I was happy he signed a new deal in the summer. I think I said at the time I tweeted out this is probably our best signing of the summer. Um, at the time there was the everyone was after the Ipswich manager, and he was getting heavily linked to going in at Ipswich if he left. Um, we started the season, like I said, we started the season with we didn't do well enough in the transfer window. We didn't lose too many players. Well, we apart from two really key ones, which was Barkley and Lokonga, and he kept wanting to play the same way we were playing the Premier League, and we just didn't have Bartley and Lokonga who are Premier League players. Um, so that was one of the key issues. Like I said, injuries was really bad. So we had lots of players coming in, like being dripped in throughout the season. They hadn't had a pre-season, so they were then breaking down again. Um, and then towards the end, he was just too stubborn. We were going into games with like two fit centre backs, and Alfie Doughty was out at the time, and he was playing Chong wing back, two fit centre backs. You'd play like a full back at one of your other sides of your centre backs, and it just needed to change to four at the back. And um, we got hammered at Middlesbrough, and he was a broken man. He just looked ill, um, and he basically said he was quite happy to go then. That happened just before an international break.
That was
Um,
early November, yeah.
yeah, and the club kept pretty quiet, and in the end, he stayed. And the first press conference afterwards, I think the club helped him get some help. I think he really struggled with the Tom Lockyer situation. And yeah, we just took him 6 weeks too long, really. Which he probably deserved it, but it was obvious for a long period of time it wasn't working, and instead of being proactive, we hung on too long. And then you
Were the
can even
fans
argue,
were the fans calling for him to go?
yeah,
As in vocally in stadiums.
yeah.
Wow.
It got we were basically get and our waveform is terrible. We've only picked up like 1 point in 13 games. And we were literally hanging above the relegation line because we were at home. We were nicking games 1-0. We beat Stoke last minute 2-1. We then beat Derby 2-1. We scored two injury times, and both of those goals were deflections, but we didn't deserve that. Didn't deserve to beat Hull at the time. Should have lost to Swansea, and you just got the feeling as soon as we didn't win at home, that was going to be it. Um, we lost to Norwich. Probably didn't deserve to lose that actually, but we did. And then, funnily enough, he changed to a back four at QPR, and we got a really bad, unlucky goal against us, the winner, where a player shot and it hit someone's heel and went in. But yeah, it was yeah. I think it was mutual consent in the end. They agreed. Well, we paid him off, but I think everyone agreed it was just time to end, and we probably not got the right manager in for the situation. I think,
Mm.
unfortunately.
We'll come back onto that in a sec. Jack, you two played each other game week one, and you won 4-1 at Kenilworth Road. And obviously
Yeah.
going into that, what the two teams had done being in the Premier League last year, kind of already like an early season shootout for that promotion. Could you have foreseen at that moment, Jack? You obviously won very comfortably that night. Could you have foreseen this for Luton?
Absolutely not. No, I think I don't know if I actually tweeted out my predictions, but I had Luton as winning the league. I had he was number one. I thought last season, as much as the three promoted teams were off the pace of the rest of the Premier League, you were quite clearly above both us and Sheffield United in every element really. And I thought with us, losing company and having to sell quite a lot of our star players, I thought you keeping Edwards and like you said, a size, sort of losing those two, you kept the majority of your squad there. I thought the game at Kenilworth Road was actually tighter than probably what the scoreline suggested. We had quite a few goals that were just against the run of play and sort of counter attack. I kept thinking, oh, you're going to have a bit more to chuck back at us, and you didn't. But it felt like a massive win for us. I thought maybe you've not hit the ground quite running, but I still expected you to be in and around the playoffs. I didn't for 1 minute think you'd be even really bottom half, let alone, sort of where you've been really.
So Matt Bloomfield appointed. Did he come from Wickham, Dan? Have I got that
Yeah,
right?
he was doing really well at Wickham. Yeah, got him top two. Um, yeah, normally it is a typical Luton appointment. We normally go young, hungry. Um, and like I said, if we'd have done it 6 weeks earlier, when um, after the Middlesbrough game, I think it would have been like a really sensible signing. But we basically brought him in during not an international break, during the transfer window. He's got a 3 game week. Um, he wanted to start play four at the back. The squad's not built for four at the back. Um, and then and we play Preston. We drew 0-0. Probably correct score. We were slightly the better team. We then went away to, I think it was Oxford. Then we lost 3-2, and we defended like really, really poorly in that game. From crosses, I think we lost to Millwall. And but basically, we recruited. Um, we signed 7, 8 players to play four at the back. Some of them are pretty good signings, and then we started playing four at the back, and it obviously it just weren't going to work. We got Alfie Doughty and Isaiah Jones, who are just suited to five at the back. We've got 4 or 5, well, in theory, decent strikers for the championship. So in the last 4 games, he's gone back to five at the back. Um, Lost to Sheffield United 1-0, but we battered them the first half. It should have at least been a draw. Played a dismal game against Plymouth, which was on TV, and we should have won that. But we conceded again, bad in both boxes, missed 3 big chances, and then they scored from a cross. Lost to Derby, pretty pathetically 2-0, and then played well, deserved to beat Portsmouth at the weekend, but it wasn't like it was just a grind out win that we needed. But yeah,
That's his first win, and he took over what we're talking about nearly 2 months ago now. It's his first win, 9 league games. I think it was your first win in 15 overall as
something like that.
well.
Yeah,
So, the position you're in the league, if you're saying you haven't appointed the right guy, this is very dangerous now, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Yeah, just gotta hope that, like I say, maybe we start doing better in both boxes. And Jack will tell you this league, apart from the top four, is pretty bang average. Um, but the thing is, we've probably only played well 4 or 5 times, and two of them were against Sheffield United and Sunderland. So
Who are obviously two
Probably,
of the better sides, Sunderland doing really well.
yeah.
Is that comment right, Jack? The league's bang average?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much a fair assessment. I think, that probably contributes to, to like we said, for some of our numbers as well. I think in other seasons we probably wouldn't be in the position we are. We've drawn as many games really. I think yeah, there's not the I think the middle is quite stretched really. There's all a bit of a much of a muchness really in the middle of the middle of the table.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like for you, Jack, you kind of guaranteed top four. It kind of feels like 15 points clear of Coventry, who are fifth. Sunderland 3 points behind you. You still obviously win a chance of finishing with the top two. 5 points behind Sheffield United. Eight behind Leeds. Leeds, by the way, their underlying numbers are miles better than everybody else. I'll
Yeah,
give you a statistic on them. Their expected goal difference this season is plus 43. The next best is plus 16. Any guesses who that is?
would it be us?
No,
Sunderland,
no,
West Brom?
no,
recognised.
no.
Coventry?
Coventry,
Coventry. And next best 16.2. Then Middlesbrough. You rank sixth on that, Jack. Plus nine.
Yeah.
That's it. But Dan, you're nowhere near the worst on that metric. You placed about 17th, minus six. So it's not a big number, is it? And unfortunately, since Bloomfield's taken over, your home record, as you said, wasn't too bad. That on Saturday was obviously the first home win. You've had some shy home results since he's taken over. And I suppose the sentiment amongst the fan base probably wasn't helped by the fact you got well beat at Watford as well, right?
yeah. To be fair, but the first goal was a penalty, and um, the ref come out later saying it wasn't a penalty, and then we conceded a sloppy second goal when you're 2-0 down, and yeah, with our away record, it's not going to turn it around. So yeah, I think, and I've said it a few times, it's weird because I think if Edwards would have had this stretch of games with Alfie Doughty back, Isaiah Jones brought in right wing, Asgard as a 10, I think he would have picked up more points.
Jack, are you looking forward to the prospect of promotion?
Mixed. It's this life as, supporting a team like ours is once you've been in the Premier League and you've been there, it's you're in for a really tough season. Yeah, it gives you some hope. Like, we had that season where we got to Europe and that really is the sort of the cherry on the top of the cake, really. That's the hope that you get up there and you can build to become something like that. But yeah, I mean I'd be more happy to stay in the championship if I weren't as worried about the finances if we weren't to make it back up there. So I think that if anything makes it more of a more of a something that we need to achieve in the next two seasons, really.
Okay, that on
Um,
the finances, how much of a concern is that at the moment?
I think it's an ongoing concern. I don't think it's. I think we've managed to just keep shifting assets and selling, and that's really what we've become. Ever since Dyche left, now we're seeing sort of 15 signings coming in a season and 15 going out really, and I think it's probably going to continue that way. With I think Trafford and Esteve won't be here in the next two seasons. So it'll still be a bit of a revolving door, really. I think they've managed to get enough sort of finance through as that at the minute. I think the worry becomes if we get stuck in this division and we can't put players back in the shop window, it's then, you know, if there's not the lucrative promotion to the Premier League, that's when the concern comes. But I think for the moment it's sort of under control.
Do you think even if you went up, the likes of Trafford and Esteve would probably leave?
I'm not sure. I think Trafford, I think there's been enough teams interested in him. So I think
Newcastle's getting mentioned over and over. It's just not stopping, is it?
yeah, yeah. So I think that would be hard if to sort of keep hold of. Especially with them having the release clause in there for Man City. I think it means that, if there becomes a bit of a bidding war, it's quite simple as he just goes back there and then either they keep him or they ship him out.
They sell him for even more. Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. What is that
Um,
fee? Do we
I
know?
think it's like 32, 33, something like that,
Okay.
which is quite fair, I thought, considering we
Yeah.
spent nearly 20 on him, so it wouldn't be much for them to sort of get him back. And yeah, I think Esteve is quite comfortably too good for this league, so If we don't go up, he'll absolutely go. And even if we do, I don't think he'll be here forever.
Because you'd have probably heard me say it loads of times. It's not something you don't know, but essentially, you ended up with a team last year that was weaker than the team that got promoted.
Yeah,
When we look at this data, if that happens again, you've not got much chance of staying up next year. And
yeah,
unfortunately, we're already thinking that a little bit.
yeah. I think that whilst we've had quite some frustrations with Parker, I think it would be a better evolution with us with him to sort of have more of a chance of staying up. I think the company experiment just isn't going to work at a team like us. So I can understand the appointment of going for someone like him. It's probably more similar to like what Luton were last year with Edwards in, a little bit more competitive. So it'd be interesting to see. Hopefully we can get over the line, but I think, like we said, sort of in the just before we started recording, I think it might be playoffs for us really.
How do you feel about Parker?
Indifferent, really. I like him. He's a likable guy, and he's not like he's not putting the effort in. He absolutely is. I think it's just been. It feels like there's a lot of opinions floating around from the fan base. I think it's like we said, it's been a bit of a strange season. But the team that played Luton on the opening day is a different team than what we had sort of 4 weeks later. So it's not everyone can adapt. The us as a club can't keep adapt to having 15 players going out every season. We haven't signed our last two, sort of top goal scorers. In last season it was Brun Lawson. The season before that it was Teller. So it's no surprise that it's hard for us to just have that, goals amongst us really with having a new team every year. So I think he's done a good job. I think yeah, he's made mistakes along the way, and I think from like we said from his other teams, he is just really missing that goal scorer to really be able to you know to push forward. Really, I think the problem with us is because I don't see that many goals in us. I understand why he's setting up the way he is because he's just trying to keep it tight at the back, and it's like it used to be under Dyche where you go, if you can just nick a goal and win a game 1-0, that's what he's going for, and I can understand it. If we went and played much more open football and we conceded 2 goals every game, I wouldn't be confident that we'd win 3-2.
I mean, looking at your list of goal scorers this season, you've only got two players scored more than three goals,
Yeah,
which is Josh Brownhill's got 10 from midfield and Zian Fleming, who you mentioned earlier, has got seven. And actually, Jaden Anthony's got three. No one else has even got three.
yeah,
So that's obviously a sizable problem that needs fixing. Parker's proven historically knows how to get a team out of this league, right?
yeah. No, which I understand the appointment, and I think it does show a little bit of concern. Of I think it was more of a we need to get promoted here, so I think there is that lingering worry with, like we said, with the finances. But yeah, I think if you look at Brownhill's numbers as well, I think he's massively outperformed his XG. He's just popped up right place, right time. He's never had a sort of a season like this in terms of goals, so it's nice for him to to come up with that. But he's one of a few that are actually out of contract in the summer, so I don't know whether we'll keep hold of him as well. I
This might be a daft question, so throw it out of hand if it is. If you go up, will Parker definitely be in charge next season?
think he will, but I think they'd be. I don't think they'd hang around of moving on if we needed to.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just of the opinion, is it that they've appointed someone to get this job done?
yeah,
And it might not be what they wanted because the statistics are a stretch away from the football you were trying to play last year, right? And
yeah.
we know there were plenty of negatives of that, but there was a reason why Vincent Company got the job. This isn't the same, is it?
Yeah, there was quite strong murmurs that Van Nistelrooy was number one on the list, and don't you remember at the time it's when he was linked with going to United, and he chose that option really. I think they've liked the big name, so I think they liked the idea with Company. It was Vincent Company's Burnley, and I think they've tried to do that again and just couldn't find the right person. So I think they went for a bit more of the safe and sensible one. But yeah, I mean, personally, as a fan, I don't want to see us keep having this limbo of change. I'd like to see us try and stick with someone, but I do think they'd get, they'd be a bit trigger happy if results weren't going our way. And as we know, for a promoted team in the Premier League these days, it doesn't, it's not gonna happen straight away. But then it's what happens. You change your manager, you go back down again, you restart that process all over again. At least with someone like Parker, I think it's a better fit for manager and club. I think we're probably a lot more aligned than obviously what company was. So I'd be happy to give him, to give him at least a solid start to the next season if we were to go up.
Dan, how do you see the promotion race? Do you see it being the current top two, Leeds, Sheffield United?
Yeah, I think Leeds, if they didn't have Meslier in goal, they'd probably be 10 points clear, I think. Um, and Sheffield United, they just grind results out and they'll win games, whereas I think Burnley will probably just score a few too many. Um, Sunderland, I just think they're a bit young still, but I think in the playoffs they could be a bit of a danger to any of the teams in the
Are any of these teams, in your opinion, Dan, good enough to be in the Premier League next year and compete properly? 'Cause it's
league.
becoming an ongoing theme now, a concern, isn't it, with the teams that get
Yeah, yeah.
promoted?
I think Leeds will. They've obviously got I, I mean, is it Red Bull back in? They're sponsored by Red
Yeah.
Bull, so I wonder if they'll be able to bring players in. Yeah, I think Leeds will do well. Sheffield United and Burnley will probably struggle. Something could be an interesting one just because I think the way they've recruited, if they can keep Rig, Bellingham, players like that, I think they will try and sign players and well, they'll definitely spend more than what Luton did when we went up. I think they'll probably do similar to what Ipswich have done this year, but they won't have to upgrade their squad quite as much. So yeah, I think probably unless I probably won't want to hear that, but Sunderland would probably do better in the Premier League if they got promoted. I think.
Reaction to that, Jack?
Yeah, I think it's always different for we've obviously got a name for ourselves now as a yo-yo team. I think for Sunderland getting back up there for the first time in a lot of years, I think they would give it a really good go. And I think what we did last season was really rip out all of that heart from the team. And there's the stuff that you can't really sort of quantify on paper. That I think they've got quite a lot of that togetherness as well. So they'd give it a good go. It'd be interesting to see. But I think if it was up there next season, I think it would be a completely different Burnley to the one the one 2 years ago under company because we just defensively we were awful. We were everything opposite of what this Burnley team is now. So I think we'd have the other problem of obviously Premier League attacks are clearly too good. We'd definitely concede, and I don't know if we'd have enough firepower. So yeah, I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah, you've either got to be outstanding going forward or outstanding defensively to have a chance.
Yeah,
Basically, it would be one or the other. Where do you think you finished, Jack?
third, I think. Although it is in our hands, we've still got Sheffield United to play. Um, I think we've really struggled to break teams down this season, and I think Sheffield United, they're going to come here and they'd be happy with a draw. A draw would be enough for them. It probably wouldn't be enough for us. So I don't think that puts us in a good position. I think if it was the other way around and Sheffield United had to come here and win, I think it would be a bit more of an open game and would favour us. But we've really struggled to break teams down. However, that being said, we've got Benson's back fit now, and Edwards is a sort of sign on till the end of the season. So we have got options. I think it's starting to change a little bit. It gives us better balance because Anthony's a real sort of workhorse on the one wing, so that sort of frees up the other winger to have that bit of extra creativity. So it feels like it could be there. So I don't think we'd be a million miles off, but I just don't think we've done it consistently yet up to this point to really go on that run of winning games. So I think yeah, I would probably say third.
Yeah, and they're not losing many of the top two either, are they?
Yeah.
How many do you see involved at the bottom, Dan? What does this cover? Who's in danger? Are we looking up to Portsmouth in 17th? You beat at the weekend, or we include Swansea? How far up are you looking?
I'm just trying to finish 21st at the minute, James. Um, to be
Yeah,
honest,
but it's
um,
close, isn't it? You're 22nd on 31. You've obviously got Plymouth a point behind you, Derby two further back, and it's two up to Hull. Then there's a bit of a gap up to Cardiff. So
yeah,
Cardiff are 5 points clear of you, but you got Stoke 36, Oxford 38, Portsmouth 39, Swansea 40, and Preston 42.
yeah, I think probably Portsmouth down. I would agree. Um, we've still got Stoke and we've got quite a lot of the bottom, but they're all away though. That's the problem we got.
Yeah, I was going
Got
to raise a
Derby,
point
got
that
Hull,
the home games you've
Cardiff.
got left, Middlesbrough, Leeds, Blackburn, Bristol City, Coventry. That's not a great set of home games as far as I look, mate. I think they're all in the top nine, I
Better.
think.
Yeah, but we've been playing better at home. So players should be up. If you can't get up to some of those games, then you're going to be in trouble. So also those teams will attack us. Maybe we'll have a bit more space on the counter. So yeah, but if we stay up, it's going to be a mixture. We're going to pick most of our points up at home, and we've got to start picking up the odd win away from home. Because if we don't pick up another win away from home, we'll probably go down, I think.
Right, okay. Go on then. Upset some people. Which three do you think will go down?
Um, Derby, Plymouth, and the other one is really tight because Hull were atrocious at home, but quite good away. I wonder if maybe an Oxford might drop. They've had the bounce, and then they've got. Funny enough, since they've beaten us, they've struggled recently. So maybe Oxford, but I I don't know.
Any strong
To be
opinions
honest,
on it,
it's
Jack? For bottom three?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight. I think it's not gone in your favour that Plymouth have sort of found a little bit of form with this new manager of theirs. Yeah, I think Derby are probably a dead cert, unfortunately for them. And then yeah, it's a real toss up. So I probably would say Plymouth, and it's whether Hull can get dragged even more into it. It's a tough one to call.
What did we make of John Eustace going from Blackburn to Derby? I mean, obviously the rivals to you, Jack. How did that go down in that region?
It was funny for us, not as funny for them. Bizarre. They've obviously they've completely turned against him now. He's completely, sort of burned his bridges with them. Yeah, I just couldn't. I know he was a player at Derby, but only for a couple of years. It wasn't like he was it's not like he'd been there for 10 years or so. I think it sort of says there's a little bit going on behind the scenes at Blackburn. But yeah, I think in the sort of immediate, it sort of spurred Blackburn on a bit. They sort of had something to play for, to be like, this prick's left us, so we're gonna try and give it a good go. But yeah, I couldn't really work it out, me personally, but
Money, maybe?
potentially, I think he sort of. But then, if they're in the playoffs, you'd imagine that if he'd probably be able to negotiate a new deal with Blackburn if, especially if they were going up, or even if they got them in the playoffs, that'd be the first time they've been in the playoffs for a good number of years. So I don't think it was all money orientated. I think there was sort of murmurs that he wanted to get out of Blackburn.
Yeah, I mean, while your stock's high,
Yeah,
potentially, but it's a risk taking that job, isn't it? I mean, they haven't scored since he's taken over. I think they've lost all three. I think I want to say got that 1 point, 1 or 2 points since Boxing Day.
yeah.
So yeah, they're not in great shape at the moment, Derby. Gentlemen, I wish you both the very, very best of luck for the rest of the season. Let's do some correct score predictions for the game at the weekend then. Go on then, Jack.
I'm really tempted to say 0-0.
I knew you would be.
Um, it's not going to be a 4-0 anyway, let's put it that way. I'm going to play it safe and say a Burnley 1-0 win.
When you won 5-0 at Plymouth, I feel like that was off the back of like 4-0 or so in a row.
Yeah,
Did that feel weird?
it did, but the Plymouth one was also weird because I think they must have made, I think it was 3 or 4 errors that led to our goals there. So it was a real gift. As much as we did play well, um, yeah, it sort of came out of nowhere. So we'll have a point to prove after the cup game. Favourable type, sort of fixture for us being at home as well. So we're going to look to sort of make amends for that. So I'd really like to think we'd score. So yeah, 1-0 for me.
And Cardiff away before that on
Yeah,
Tuesday night. Is that, I guess you're looking at both of these. Is it got to be 6 points this week? Does it feel like?
absolutely. Yeah, I think at this stage of the season, with like we've said, with Leeds and Sheffield United doing what they're doing, Leeds are really out of the sort of picture for us now. We've really got to target Sheffield United, and I don't think a draw helps us. So I think if it's 0-0 against Cardiff in the 80th minute, I'd be wanting us to chuck the kitchen sink at it really because we just need the wins. It has to be 6 points. we're obviously going to drop points between now and the end of the season. I don't see us going on a mad winning run, but yeah, we need to really limit the draws and that old adage of age old adage of it being, a win's better than, sort of a win and two losses is just the same as three draws, isn't it? So
Unfortunately for you, Jack, it's not 2 points for a win anymore, mate. It'd be a little bit closer if it was. Dan, go on and give us a prediction for Turf Moor at the weekend, mate.
I think it'll be pretty tight. If we go ahead, we could cause a bit of trouble, but realistically, having seen our away form, we'll probably lose it 1 or 2 nil.
Okay. Very best of luck to you, gents. Jack, anything you want to promote before we finish?
no, just they'll follow on at Surfy Topper on X.
Good man. And yourself, Dan?
Currently, Luton are still in the Gaffer game, so I run a podcast at EFL_fantasy. Yeah, I might have to get him to make a League One if we go down, but yeah, me and Angus are still doing the podcast when he's not gallivanting around the world for his work.
Good lad, Angus. How's the Gaffer game going for you this year?
He's 26, so pretty well
Nice.
this year.
And Angus?
He's better than me, so that's all that matters.
Shout out Angus. Please pass on our regards to gents. Thank you both very much. Tomorrow, Clayton will be back with me for Chips and the Arse Man, Volume 3. Yeah, the update on strategy following the FA Cup games at the weekend. And we've got another clash of correspondence for you on Thursday as well as Wolves versus Everton. Had some very important fixtures for the two of them with Bradley Parker and Sean Norton. Just see you. So thanks very much to Jack and Dan. Good luck, gents. Cue music, please, man sharp.